Hey there guys, I am the Sixth Machine and welcome back to another Warhammer video. Some pretty exciting news today. With the upcoming chapter approved book going up for pre-order this weekend, we've had a few teases and leaks about what may be coming, and one in particular has been the new Custodes Codex, which before it even released had some rumours flying around of points drops, and well, now it looks as though some of those have been confirmed. And as you can see, there have been some scans of the pages of the new chapter approved, and if you look at the costs compared to the list that was going around over the last couple of weeks, it does seem as though they were all pretty much on the mark with what we expected. So there are some very pleasant price drops coming for the Custodes, which will really help to make them an even more powerful faction on the battlefields of 9th edition. Now, there are a lot of changes, so I'm not going to go through each and every one of them in detail. You can take a look here and see what has changed for your specific army build in your roster, but let's take a look at a few of the notable changes that Custodes players can look forward to. And when I say look forward to, first up the bad news. And I mean, I say bad news, but I mean, well, here it is. The Blade Champion got a bump from 110 points to 120. A 10-point bump for everything he can do it's honestly fine. I still think he is incredibly good value, and at 120 points, I still do think he will see a lot of play. Funnily enough, the main reason for not bringing a Blade Champion in a Custodes list isn't his points cost, it's just the fact that all the other HQ options you can take are just so good as well. Sometimes he gets eclipsed by their usefulness and you just can't find a place for him. So 120 points, he's still brilliant, he's still fantastic, still take him in your lists if you have a spot for him. But on the more positive side, however, aside from a few cases, chiefly the Sagittarium Custodians, Misericordias are now free across the board, which is, even if nothing else had changed in chapter approved, absolutely huge, granting you effectively an army-wide +1 attack on all of your models, or if you were already taking them on everything you could, probably somewhere in the region of a 60 to 75 point price drop in your list, which essentially means this one change alone nets you basically a free Terminator for your army. This is a hugely welcome and actually very impactful change for the Custodes. They are still 3 points on the Sagittarium, which to be fair also makes total sense. For every other unit in your codex, the Misericordia is basically giving you 1 extra strength 5 minus 2 AP attack, but for the Sagittarium that 3 points takes them from 3 strength 5 no AP attacks to 4 strength 5 minus 2 AP attacks. It is a really huge buff for them and takes their melee output to a level that can in some cases outdo other armies' dedicated combat units, so it's still well worth taking on them, I think, and I would argue for 3 points it's still pretty much an auto take on them. But the fact that it's free for everything else is such a huge buff to your army in general. You can now basically consider everything in your army to have +1 attack. Elsewhere, the shield captains have all had a nice drop, the regular captain dropping 5 points, whilst the Terminator and the jet bike captain have dropped a mighty 10 to 115 and to 160 respectively. Probably the biggest glow up on the HQ front though is Mr. Trajan himself. Already pretty much an auto include at the 170 points he is in the codex, he's now dropped another 10 points to 160, which, I mean, that just makes him one of the most absurdly well costed units in the entire game, I think. He just brings so much damage output, unit buffing potential, CP regen, and all manner of funky other buffs to your army. At 160 points, I fully expect to see him in pretty much every single competitive Custodes list going forward. It is an awesome change right there, and I hope he doesn't get renerfed because it is really good. Like, don't get me wrong, it is really good, bordering on the too good category, but I love him being 160 points and I want him to stay that because I want to bring him for that price as often as I can. There was also some concern that the new Presidium Shields were getting a bump up to 10 points from their current 5, which in my opinion would have made Sword and Board Custodian Guard a very hard pick over the Spear Guard, but luckily they are still 5 points for that upgrade, so it's 50 points to swap out your spear for that more defensive profile. It's still a good choice, I think, to have maybe one in each squad of 3 just to help you tank any of those higher AP shots that may come your way, and also it kind of looks cool to have your squad being led by a guy with a sword and a shield and then the 2 spears behind him. On top of that, we also see some small but relevant 5-point drops on things like the Virtus Praetors down to 80 points from 85, and the Alaris Terminators from 65 to 60, which makes them both exceptionally good picks now, plus the free Misericordia, of course, meaning that you're going to be making a load of really small savings on each model, but that is all going to add up over the course of your list writing, and it's going to give you, as I said, at the very least a free Terminator, but maybe even 2, depending on how your list is now. On the vehicle front, the Land Raider drops from 285 to 265, which is better, I guess. Still not exactly a must-take by any stretch, and I doubt you will see many of them, not when especially the Coronis Grav Carrier has had an even heftier drop from 250 to just 220. It's cheaper, arguably better in many ways, and it looks cooler and it fits with the Custodes aesthetic more, so yeah, probably still not a Land Raider meta, I'm afraid. The Telemon also drops a very welcome 20 points to 260 from 280, which is good for me because I have 2 of them. Again, this seems incredibly good now with some of the shield host traits buffing it. Getting your Telemon a 4-up shrug against mortal wounds, or always fights first in the Emissaries Imperatus, is going to really help make this thing tear through your battle lines for as long as possible. Finally, the Flyers both got a hefty 50-point drop from 500 to 450 for the Orion, and from 450 to 400 for the Ares. I'll be honest with you, I don't know the Flyers that well, I've never used them myself, and I don't actually know anyone that owns one, but a 50-point drop is a decent amount, I suppose, and alongside the other drops in chapter approved, I suppose if you really wanted to bring one along in your games, now could be a good time to try and fit one in. So there we go, a lot of very decent little drops coming for the Custodes in chapter approved. I've got the points up now, so if you want to kind of have a look through and see what has changed in your army, you can do, but I covered some of the big stuff that I certainly took note of. And I have to say, the Codex already, from what I've seen having read through it, is already in a solid low A tier, I would say. So this is just going to make it even better, make it even more cost efficient on the battlefield. And there are a few things now that I think you will see in almost every list. Trajan, Melter Bikes, Alaris Terminators, they are all incredibly strong now. But what do you think of these changes? Were they what you were expecting, or were you hoping for some bigger drops, or maybe some hikes on a few things? Maybe you think something is too cheap? But let me know in the comments below what you think of these changes and what you think this is going to mean for your army list. Thanks very much for watching, and as always, please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me. But until next time, I'll catch you later, guys.